Jnanakosha Vedas Atharvana Veda by pact.
ॐ गणानां त्वा गणपतिगं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपवज्रवत्तमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणान् ब्रह्मणस्पतः शृण्वन्नोतिभिः
Atharvana based Upanishads. Sandilya Upanishad. Sandilya was the name of at least two prominent rishis. One of the rishis was the progenitor of the Sandilya Gotra. Progenitor of Sandilya Gotra, one rishi was a son of the sage Asita and grandson of the rishi Kashyapa and the founder of the Sandilya Gotra. Brihadanaranya Upanishad states that he was a disciple of Vasya Rishi. His other acharyas include Kaushika, Gautama Maharishi, Kaishaurya Kapya, Vasya, Vaijyapa and Kushri. His disciples include Kaundinya, Agnivesha, Vastya, Vamaka Aksha, Vasishtarupeya and Bharadwaja. He was also the composer of the Sandilya Upanishad. According to the Bhagavata Purana, he was the instrumental in settling certain metaphysical doubts of King Parikshit of Hastinapur and King Vajra of Dwaraka. This is taught by sage Atharvana to sage Sandilya. It deals with Ashtanga Yoga and Brahma Vidya. Om, O Devas, may we hear with our ears what is auspicious, may we see with our eyes what is auspicious. O ye worthy of worship, may we enjoy the term of life allotted by the Devas. Praising them with our body and limbs study, may the glorious Indra bless us. May all knowing sun bless us. May Garuda, the thunderbolt for evil, bless us. May Brihaspati grant us well-being. Om, let there be peace in me. Let there be peace in my environment and let there be peace in the forces that act on me. Chapter 1. Sandilya questioned Atharvana thus, please tell me about the 8 angas of yoga, which is the meaning of attaining to Atman. Atharvana replied, the 8 angas of yoga are Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana and Samadhi. Of these, Yama is of 10 kinds and so is Niyama. There are 8 asanas. Pranayama is the 3 kinds. Pratyahara is of 5 kinds. So also is Dharana. Dhyana is of 2 kinds and Samadhi is of the kind only. Under Yama, forbearance are 10. Ahimsa, Satya, Asteya, Brahmacharya, Daya, Arjava, Krishma, Dhriti, Mitahara and Saucha. Of these, Ahimsa is the not causing of any pain to any living being at any time through the actions of one's mind, speech or body. Satya is the speaking of the truth that conducts to the well-being of creatures through the actions of one's mind, speech or body. Asteya is not coveting of another property through the actions of one's mind, speech or body. Brahmacharya is the refraining from sexual intercourse in all places and in all states of in mind, speech or body. Daya is kindliness towards all creatures in all places. Arjiva is the preserving of equanimity of mind, speech or body in the performance or non-performance of the actions ordained or forbidden to be done. Kshama is the bearing patiently of all pleasant or unpleasant things such as praise or blow. Dhriti is the preserving of firmness of mind during the period of gain or loss of wealth or relatives. Mitahara is the taking of oily and sweet food, leaving 1/4 of the stomach empty. Saucha is of 2 kinds, external and internal. Of these, the external is the cleansing of the body by earth and water. The internal is the cleansing of the mind. This is to be obtained by means of Adhyatma Vidya. Under Niyama are 10: tapas, santosha, astikya, dana, ishva, rupa, pujanya, siddhanta, sravana, hrihi, mati, japa, and vrata. Of these tapas is the emancipation of the body through the observance of such penances at Krichara, Chandrayana, according to rules. Santosha is being satisfied with whatever comes to us of its own accord. Astikya is the belief in the merits or demerits of action as stated in the Vedas. Dana is the giving with faith to deserving persons, money, grains, and earned lawfully. Ishwar Pujyana is the worshipping of Vishnu, Rudra, with pure mind according to one's power. Siddhanta Sravana is the inquiry into the significance of Vedanta. Rehi is the shame felt in the performance of things contrary to the rules of the Vedas and of society. Mati is the faith in the paths laid down by the Vedas. Japa is the practicing of the mantras into which one is duly initiated by his spiritual instructor and which is not against the Vedas. It is of two kinds, the spoken and the mental. The mental is associated with contemplation by the mind. The spoken is of two kinds, the loud and the low. The loud pronunciation gives the reward as stated. The low one a reward 1,000 times. The mental a reward 1,000,000. Vrata is the regular observance of or the refraining from the actions enjoined or prohibited by the Vedas. Asanas, the postures, are chiefly 8: Swastika, Gomukha, Padma, Vira, Simha, Bhadra, Mukta, and Mayura. Swastika is the sitting at ease with the body erect, placing each foot between the thighs and knees of the other. Gomukha is the sitting at ease with the body erect, placing the hollow of the left foot under the side of the right posteriors and the hollow of the right foot under the side of the left posteriors, resembling Gomukha. Padma is the sitting at ease with the body erect, placing the back of each foot in the thigh of the other, the right hand grasping the right toe and the left hand to left toe. This, O Sandilya, is praised by all. Vira is the sitting at ease, placing one foot on the thigh of the other and the other foot underneath the corresponding. Simha is pressing the right side with the hollow of the left heel and vice versa. Rest your hands on the knees, spread out the fingers, open your mouth, and carefully fix your gaze on the tip of your nose. This is always praised by the yogins. Siddha is pressing the perineum with the left heel and placing the heel of the right foot above the genital organ, concentrating the mind between the two eyebrows. Bhadra is pressing the two ankles of the 2 feet firmly together against the Shivani and binding the knees firmly with the hands. This is the Bhadra which destroys all diseases and poisons. Mukta is pressing with the left heel the right side of the tender part of the Shivani and with the right heel the left side of the tender part of the Shivani. Mayura, rest your body upon the ground with both palms and place your elbows on the sides of the navel. Lift up the head and feet and remain like a stick in the air. This is the Mayura posture which destroys all sins. By these all the diseases within the body are destroyed. All the poisons are digested. Let the person who is unable to practice all these postures betake himself to any one which he may find easy and pleasant. He who conquers the postures, he conquers the 3 worlds. A person who has the practice of yama and niyama should practice pranayama. By that the nadis become purified. Then Sandilya questioned Atharvana thus, by what means are the nadis purified? How many are they in number? How do they arise? What vayus are located in them? What are their seats? What are their functions? Whatever is worthy of being known in the body, please tell me. To that Atharvana replied, this body is 96 digits in length. Prana extends 12 digits beyond the body. He who through the practice of yoga reduces his prana within his body to make it equal to or not less than the fire, and it becomes the greatest of the yogins. In men, the regions of fire, which is triangular in form and brilliant as the molten gold, is situated in the middle of the body. In four-footed animal, it is quadrangular. In birds, it is round. In its the region of life's center, the purifying, beneficial, and subtler flame is situate. 2 digits above the anus and 2 digits below the sexual organ is the center of the body for men. For four-footed animals, it is the middle of the heart. For birds, it is the middle of the body. 9 digits from the center of the body and 4 digits in length and breadth is situated an oval form. In its midst is the navel. In it is situated the chakra with 12 spokes. In the middle of the chakra, the jiva, Atma, wanders, driven by its good and bad deeds. As a spider flies to and fro within a web of fine threads, so prana moves about here. In this body, the jiva rides upon prana. Lying in the middle of the navel and above it is the seat of Kundalini. The Kundalini Shakti is of the form of 8 prakritis and coils itself 8 ways, are the movement of the vayus, checks duly the food and drink all round by the side of skanda. It closes by its head the Brahma Andhra, and during the time of the practice of yoga is awakened by the fire in the Panam. Then it shines with great brilliancy in the Akasa of the heart in the shape of wisdom. Depending upon Kundalini, which is situated in the center, there are 14 principal nadis: Ida, Pingala, Shushma, Saraswati, Varuni, Pusha, Hasti Jivaha, Yasaswini, Vishodhari, Kuhu, Shakhini, Payashwini, Alabusa, and Gandhari. Of them, Shushma is said to be the sustainer of the universe and the path of salvation. Situated at the back of the anus, it is attached to the spinal column and extends to the Brahma Andhra of the head and is invisible and subtle and is Vaishnavi, the Shakti of the force of Vishnu. On the left of Shushanva is seated Ida, and on the right is Pingala. The moon moves in Ida and the sun in Pingala. The moon is of the nature of the tamas and the sun of rajas. The poison share is of the sun and the nectar of the moon. They both direct time, and Shushma is the enjoyer of time. To the back and on the side of Shushmana are situated Saraswati and Kuhu respectively. Between Yasaswini and Kuhu stands Varuni. Between Pusha and Saraswati lies Payaswini. Between Gandhari and Saraswati is situated Yasaswini. In the center of the navel is Alambusha. In front of the Shushmana there is Kuhu, which proceeds as far as the genital organ. Above and below Kundalini is situated Varuni, which proceeds everywhere. Yashashvini, which is beautiful, proceeds to the great toes. Pingala goes upwards to the right nostril. Payashvini goes to right ear. Saraswati goes to the upper part, or the tongue, and Shakhini to the left ear. Gandhari goes from the back of Ida to the left eye. Alambusha goes upwards and downwards from the root of the anus. From these 14 nadis, other nadis spring. From them springing others, and from them springing others, so it should be known. As the leaf of the Ashwatha tree is covered with minute fibers, so also is this body permeated with nadis. Prana, Apana, Samana, Udana, Vayana, Naga, Kurma, Krikara, Devadatta, and Dhananjaya. These 10 Vayus, vital airs, move in all the nadis. Prana moves in the nostrils, the throat, the navel, the two great toes, and the lower and the upper parts of Kundalini. Vayana moves in the ear, the eye, the loins, the ankles, the nose, the throat, and the buttocks. Apana moves in the anus, the genitals, the thighs, the knees, the stomach, the seats, the loins, the calves, the navel, and the seat of the anus of fire. Udana lives in all the joints and also in the hands and legs. Samana lives permitting in all parts of the body. Along with the fire in the body, it causes the food and drink taken in to spread in the body. It moves in the 72,000 nadis and pervades all over the body along with the fire. The fire vayus beginning with Naga go towards the skin, the bones. The prana which is in the navel separates the food and drink which is there and brings about the rasas and others. Placing the water above the fire and the food above the water, it goes to the apana and along with it fans up the fire in the center of the body. The fire thus fanned up by the apana gradually increases in brightness in the middle of the body. Then it causes through its flames the water which is brought in the bowels by the prana to grow hot. The fire with the water causes the food and conditions which are placed above to be boiled to a proper degree. Then prana separates these into sweat, urine, water, blood, semen, the feces, and the like. And along with the samana, it takes the juice to all the nadis and moves in the body in the shape of breath. The vayus excrete the urine, the feces, through the 9 openings in the body which are connected with the outside air. The functions of the prana are inspiration, expiration, and cough. Those of apana are the excretion of the feces and the urine. Those of vayana are giving and taking. Those of udana are keeping the body straight. Those of samana are nourishing the body. Those of naga are vomiting. Of kurma, the movement of the eyelids, of the krikara, the causing of hunger, of devadatta, idleness, and dhananjaya, welcome. Having thus acquired a thorough knowledge of the seat of the nadis and of the vayus with their functions, one should begin with the purification of the nadis. A person possessed of yama and niyama, avoiding all company, having finished his course of study, delighting in truth and virtue, having conquered anger, being engaged in the service of his spiritual instructor, and having been obedient to his parents and well instructed in all the religious practices and the knowledge of his order of life, should go to a sacred grove abounding in fruits, roots, and water. There he should select a pleasant spot, always resounding with the chanting of the Vedas, frequented by the knowers of Brahma, that preserves in the duties of their orders of life and filled with fruits, roots, flowers, and water. Either in a temple or on the banks of a river, or in a village or in a town, he should build a beautiful monastery. It should be neither too long nor too high, should have a small door, should be smeared well with cow dung, and should have every sort of protection. There, listening to the exposition of Vedanta, he should begin to practice yoga. In the beginning, having worshipped Vinayaka, he should salute his Ishta Devata, and sitting in any of the above mentioned postures on a soft seat facing either the east or the north, and having conquered them, the learned man, keeping his head and neck erect and fixing his gaze on the tip of his nose, should see the spear of the moon between his eyebrows and drink the nectar. Inhaling the air through Ida for the space of 12 matras, he should contemplate on the spear of fire situated in the belly, as surrounded with flames and having as its seat Ra. Then he should exhale it through Pingala. Again inhaling it through Pingala, and retaining it, he should exhale it through Ida. For the period of 28 months, he should practice 6 times at every sitting through the 3 sandhyas and during the intervals. By this the nadis becomes purified. Then the body becomes light and bright, the fire is increased, and there is the manifestation of nada, internal sound. Pranayama is said to be the union of prana and apana. It is the true kinds, expiration, inspiration, and cessation. They are associated with the letters of the Sanskrit alphabet for the right performance of pranayama. Therefore, pranava, om, only is said to be pranayama. Sitting in the Padma posture, the person should meditate that there is at the tip of his nose Gayatri, a girl of red complexion surrounded by the numberless rays of image of the moon and mounted on a hamsa and having a mace in her hand. She is the visible symbol of the letter A. The letter U has as its visible symbol Savitri, a young woman of white color having a disc in her hand and riding on a Garuda. The letter M has as its visible symbol Saraswati, an aged woman of black color riding on a bull having a trident in her hand. He should meditate that the single letter, the supreme light, the pranava om, is the origin or source of these 3 letters AUM. Drawing up the air through Ida for the space of 16 matras, he should meditate on the letter A during that time. Retaining the inspired air for the space of 64 matras, he should meditate on the letter U during the time. He should then exhale the inspired air for the space of 32 matras, meditating on the letter M during that time. He should practice this in the above order over and over again. Then, having become firm in the posture of preserved perfect self-control, the yogin should, in order to clear away the impurities of the Sushumna, sit in the Padmasana and having inhaled the air through the left nostril, should retain it as long as he can and should exhale it through the right. Then, drawing it again through the right and having retained it, he should exhale it through the left in the order that he should draw it through the same nostril by which he exhaled it before and retained it. In this context occur to memory the following verses. In the beginning, having inhaled the breath prana through the left nostril according to the rule, he should exhale it through the other. Then, having inhaled the air through the right nostril, should retain it and exhale it through the air. To those who practice according to these rules through the right and left nostrils, the nadis become purified within 3 months. He should practice cessation of breath at sunrise, in the midday, at sunset, and the midnight slowly till 80 times a day for 4 weeks. In the early stages, perspiration is produced. In the middle stage, the tremor of the body, and in the last stage, levitation in the air. These results ensure out of the repression of the breath while sitting in the Padma posture. When perspiration arises with effort, he should rub his body well. By this, the body becomes firm and light. In the early course of his practice, food with milk and ghee is excellent. One sticking to this rule becomes firm in his practice and gets no tapa or burning sensation in the body. As lions, elephants, and tigers are gradually tamed, so also the breath when rightly managed, else it kills the practitioner. He should properly inhale it, properly exhale it and properly inhale it or retain it properly. Thus will he attain success. By thus retaining the breath in an approved manner and by the purification of the nadis, the brightening of the gastric fire, the hearing distinctly of spiritual sounds and good health result. When the nervous centers have become purified through the regular practice of pranayama, the air easily forces its way up through the mouth of the susamna, which is in the middle. By the contraction of the muscles of the neck and by the contraction of the one below, apana, the prana, goes into the sushumna, which is in the middle from the west nadi. Drawing up the apana and forcing down the prana from the throat, the yogin, free from old age, becomes a youth of 16. Seated in a pleasant posture and drawing up the air through the right nostril and retaining it inside from the top of the head to the toe nails, he should exhale it through the same nostril. Through it, the brain becomes purified and the diseases in the air nadis are destroyed. Drawing up the air through the nostrils with noise from the heart to the neck and having retained it as long as possible, he should exhale it through the nose. Through this, hunger, thirst, idleness, and sleep do not arise. Taking in the air through the mouth and having retained it as long as possible, he should expel it through the nose. Through this, gulma, plema, bile, and fever, as also hunger, are destroyed. Now we shall proceed to kumbhaka. It is of two kinds, sahita and kevala. That which is coupled with expiration and inspiration is called sahita. That which is devoid of these is called kevala. Until you become perfect in kevala, practice sahita. To one who has mastered kevala, there is nothing unattainable in the three worlds. By kevala restraint of breath, the knowledge of kundalini arises. Then he becomes lean in body, serene in face, and clear-eyed, hears the sounds distinctly, becomes free from all diseases, and conquers his seminal fluid, his gastric fire being increased. Centering one's mind in an inward object whilst his eyes are looking outside without shutting and opening of his eyelids has been called Vaishnavi Mudra. This is kept hidden in all the tantric works. With his mind and breath absorbed in an internal object, the yogin, though he does not really see the objects outside and under him, still see them with eyes in which the pupils are motionless. This is called Kechari Mudra. It has as its sphere of extension one object and is very beneficial. The real seat of Vishnu, which is void and non-void, dawns on him. With eyes half closed and with a firm mind fixing his eyes on the tip of his nose and becoming absorbed in the sun and moon, he, after remaining thus unshaken, the thing which is resplendent, which is the supreme truth and which is beyond, O Sandilya, know this to be thought. Merging the sound in the light and elevating the brows a little, this is of the way, the former practice. This brings about the state of unmani, which causes the destruction of the mind. Therefore, he should practice the Khechari Mudra. Then he attains to the state of unmani and falls into the yoga sleep. To one who obtains this yoga sleep, time does not exist. Placing the mind in the midst of the Shakti and Shakti in the midst of the mind and looking on the mind with the mind. O Sandilya, be happy. Place the Atman in the midst of Akasa and Akasa in the midst of Atman, and having reduced everything to Akasha, do not think of anything else. You should not entertain thoughts either external or internal. Abandoning all thoughts becomes abstract thought itself. As camphor in fire and salt in water become absorbed, so also the mind becomes absorbed in the tattva, truth. What is termed manas, mind, is the knowledge of everything that is known and its clear apprehension. When the knowledge and the object cognized are lost alike, there is no second path. By its giving up all cognition of objects, it is absorbed, and when the mind is absorbed, Kaivalya alone remains. For the destruction of the chitta, there are two ways, yoga and jnana. O Prince of Sages, yoga is the repression of the modifications of the mind, and jnana is the thorough inquiry into them. When the modifications of the mind are repressed, it verily obtains peace. Just as the actions of the people cease with the stopping of the fluctuations of the sun, so when the fluctuations of the mind cease, this cycle of births and deaths comes to an end. The fluctuations of prana are prevented when one has no long for its mundane existence, or when he has gratified his desires therein through the study of religious books, the company of good men, indifference, practice and yoga, or long contemplation with intense or any desired object, or through practicing one truth firmly. By the repression of the breath through inhalation, by continual practice therein which does not cause fatigue, and by meditating in a secluded place, the fluctuations of the mind are arrested. Through the right realization of the true nature of the sound, which is at the extreme end of the pronunciation of the syllable, and then Sushupti is rightly cognized through consciousness, the fluctuations of prana are repressed. When the passage at the root of the palate, which is like the bell, uvula, is closed by the tongue with effort, and when the breath goes up through, then the fluctuations of prana are stopped. When the consciousness is merged in prana, and when through practice the prana goes through the upper hole into the dvadasa shanta above the palate, then the fluctuations of prana are stopped. When the eye of consciousness becomes calm and clear, so as to be able to distinctly see in the transparent akasa at a distance of 12 digits from the tip of his nose, then the fluctuations of prana are stopped. When the thoughts arising in the mind are bound up in the calm contemplation of the world of Taraka between one's eyebrows and are destroyed, then the fluctuations cease. When the knowledge which is of the form of the knowable, which is beneficent and which is untouched by any modification, arises in one and is known as Om only and no other, then the fluctuations of prana cease. By the contemplation of a long time of the akasa, which is in the heart, and by the contemplation of the mind free from vasanas, then the fluctuations of prana cease. By these methods and various others suggested by thought and by means of contact of the many guides, the fluctuations cease. Having by contraction opened the door of Kundalini, one should force open the door of moksha, closing with her mouth the door through which one ought to go. The Kundalini slips spiral in form and coiled up like a serpent. He who causes this Kundalini to move, he is an emancipated person. If this Kundalini were to sleep in the upper part of the neck of any yogin, it goes towards his emancipation. In the lower part, it is for the bondage of the ignorant. Leaving the two nadis, Ida and Adar, its prana should move in the Sushumna, that is the supreme seat of Vishnu. One should practice control of breath with the concentration of the mind. The mind should not be allowed by a clever man to rest on any other thing. One should not worship Vishnu during the day alone, One should not worship Vishnu during the night alone, but should always worship him and should not worship him merely during day and night. The wisdom producing opening has 5 passages. O Sandilya, this is the Kechar Mudra, practice it. With one who sits in the Kechari Mudra, the Vayu which was flowing before through the left and right nadis now flows through the middle one. You should swallow the air through the void between Ida and Pingala. In that place is Kechari Mudra situated, and that is the seat of truth. Again, that is Kechari Mudra, which is situated in the Akasha Chakra, in the Nirlambha seat between the sun and moon. When the tongue has been lengthened to the length of Kala by the incision of the lingam and by rubbing and milking it, the tongue with fix the gaze between the 2 eyebrows and close the hole in the skull with the tongue reverse. This is Kechari Mudra. With the tongue and the chitta both move in the Akasha, then the person with his tongue raised up becomes immortal. Firmly pressing the yoni by the left heel, stretching out the right leg, grasping the feet with both hands, and inhaling the air through the nostrils, practice Kanta Bandha, retaining the air upwards. By that all afflictions are destroyed, then poison is digested as if it were nectar. Asthma, splentic diseases, the turning up of the anus and the numbness of the skin are removed. This is the means of conquering prana and destroying death. Pressing the yoni by the left heel, place the other foot over the left thigh. Inhale the air, rest the chin on the chest. Contract the yoni and contemplate your Atman as situated within your mind. Thus is the direct perception attained. Inhaling the prana from outside and filling the stomach with it. Center the prana with the mind in the middle of the navel, at the tip of the nose, and at the toes during the sandhyas or at all times. The yogin is freed from all diseases and fatigue. By centering his prana at the tip of his nose, he obtains mastery over the element of air. By centering it at the middle of his navel, all diseases are destroyed. By centering it as at the toes, his body becomes light. He who drinks the air through the tongue destroys fatigue, thirst, and diseases. He who drinks the air with his mouth during the 2 sandhyas and the last 2 hours of the night, within 3 months, the auspicious Saraswati is present in his walk. He becomes eloquent and learned in his speech. In 6 months he is free from all diseases. Drawing the air by the tongue, retain the air at the root of the tongue. The wise man, thus drinking nectar, enjoys all prosperity. Fixing the Atman in the Atma itself in the middle of the eyebrows, through Ida and breaking through that 30 times, even a sick man is freed from disease. He who draws the air through the nadis and retains it for 24 minutes in the navel and in the sides of the stomach becomes freed from disease. He who for the space of months during the 3 sandhyas draws the air through the tongue, pierces 30 times and retains his breath in the middle of his navel, becomes freed from all fevers and poisons. He who retains the prana together with the mind at the tip of his nose, even for the space of a muhurta, destroys all sins that were committed by him during 100 breaths. Through the Samayama Avatara, he knows all things. By retaining the mind at the tip of his nose, he acquires a knowledge of Indra world. Below that, he acquires a knowledge of Agni world. Through the Samayama of Chitta in the eye, he gets a knowledge of all worlds in the ear, a knowledge of Yama in the sides of the ear, a knowledge of Neti world in the back of it, a knowledge of Varuna world in the left ear, a knowledge of the Vayu world in the throat, a knowledge of Soma world in the left eye, a knowledge of Shiva world; in the head, a knowledge of the Atala world; in the feet, a knowledge of the Vitala world; in the ankles, a knowledge of Nitala world; in the calves, a knowledge of Sutala rather world; in the knees, a knowledge of Mahatala world; in the thighs, a knowledge of Rasatala world; in the lions, a knowledge of the Talatala world; in the navel, a knowledge of Buhur world; in the stomach, a knowledge of Buhur world; in the heart, a knowledge of Shuvur world; in the place above the heart, a knowledge of the Mahar world; in the throat, a knowledge of Jana world; in the middle of the brows, a knowledge of Tapa world; in the head, a knowledge of Satya world. By conquering Dharma and Adharma, one knows the past and the future. By centering it on the sound of every creature, a knowledge of the cry of the animal is produced. By centering it on the Sanchita Karma, a knowledge of one's previous births arises in him. By centering it on the mind of another, a knowledge of the mind of the others is induced. By centering it on the Kaya Rupa, other forms are seen. By fixing it on the Bala, the strength of persons like Hanuman is obtained. By fixing it on the sun, a knowledge of the worlds arise. By fixing it on the moon, a knowledge of the constellation is produced. By fixing it on the Dhruva, a perception of its motion is induced. By fixing it on his own, one acquires the knowledge of Purusha on the navel. He attains the knowledge of the Kaya Vyuha. On the well of the throat, freedom from hunger and thirst arises. On the Kurma Nadi, a firmness takes place. By fixing it on the Tara, he obtains the sight of the Siddhas. By conquering the Akasha in the body, he is able to soar in the Akasha. By centering the mind in any place, he conquers the Siddhis appertaining to that place. Then comes Pratyahara, which is of 5 kinds. It is the drawing away of the organs from attaching themselves to the objects of senses. Contemplating upon everything that one sees as Atman is Pratyahara. Renouncing the fruits of one's daily actions is Pratyahara. Turning away from all objects of sense is Pratyahara. Dharana in the 18 important places is Pratyahara. The feet, the toes, the ankles, the calves, the knees, the thighs, the anus, the penis, the navel, the heart, the well of the throat, the palate, the nose, the eyes, the middle of the brows, the forehead, and the head in ascending and descending orders. Then Dharana. It is of 3 kinds: fixing the mind in the Atman, bringing the external Akasa into the Akasa of the heart, and contemplating the 5 Marutis in the 5 elements: earth, apa, fire, vayu, and Akasha. Then comes Dhyana. It is of 2 kinds: Shaguna and Nirguna. Shaguna is the meditation of a Murti, Nirguna is on the reality of self. Samadhi is the union of the Jivatma and the Paramatman without the threefold state. It is of the nature of extreme bliss and pure consciousness. Thus ends the first chapter.